All right, so welcome everyone. Ready for another deep dive.
Absolutely, let's do it.
This time we're looking at a property auction, but not your typical cash-only deal.
Yeah, this one's really interesting. Definitely stands out.
It's 9275 Salem Creek Place, that's in Studley, Virginia. And get this auction is actually designed for buyers who will be using traditional financing.
That's right, not just for those with, deep pockets and cash on hand.
And the property itself, oh man, this is where it gets exciting. It's a 10-acre colonial estate, part of Patrick Henry's original Pine/Farm.
Wow, talk about a piece of history.
I know, right? And to top it off, there are even preserved Civil War entrenchments on the property.
You don't see that every day. It's like a history buff's dream come true.
So we've got the sources here, and let's dive into what makes this property and this auction so unique.
Yeah, let's break it down.
So first off, this estate, it's not just some dusty old relic. I mean, it's been beautifully preserved. It's got a gourmet kitchen, refinished hardwood floors, even a two-story screened porch.
Right? It's like they've managed to blend that historical charm with modern luxury, which you don't always find.
Yeah, that's a really smart strategy. Appeals to a wider range of buyers. Someone interested in that historical connection, but also wants those modern comforts.
Exactly. And to have that combined with the whole Patrick Henry and Civil War connection, it's a rare find.
But what really sets this apart, I think, is the auction process itself. They're calling it financing friendly. What exactly does that mean? I mean, how does that work?
It's a really interesting approach. You know how most options, they tend to favor cash buyers? Well, this one aims to, like, level the playing field a bit, make it more accessible to, well, everyone.
Okay, so less about who has the most cash on hand and more about what? Finding the right buyer for the property.
Yeah, it's more about making the process fairer and more transparent for all buyers, regardless of how they're paying.
So is this really like a game changer or is it just some clever marketing tactic?
I think it's definitely innovative. They've put some really thoughtful safeguards in place to make it work.
Okay, like what? Give me some specifics.
For one, the property itself has to meet all the standard lending requirements. So think appraisal value, clear title, all that.
So they're making sure that, like, the property actually qualifies for a mortgage. That's smart.
Exactly. Removes a lot of the risk for buyers who'll need to finance.
I was also reading about protection for the buyer's deposit, if the financing falls through, but like specifically because of something wrong with the property itself.
Right. That's huge because in a typical auction, even if, the property fails to meet those lending requirements, you could still lose your deposit. This process protects buyers from that.
Okay, so let's say, I'm interested, I'm a buyer. How does this whole thing actually work, step by step?
Well, it's surprisingly similar to a traditional home purchase. You'd start by, getting pre-approved for a mortgage just like you normally would. Make sure your financing is all lined up.
Okay, standard stuff so far, then what?
Then you register on their platform. All the bidding happens online, which is super convenient, and you can see like where your bid stands in real time.
Ah, so it's transparent, no more wondering if you're even in the running.
Exactly. They've taken steps to like eliminate a lot of that uncertainty and stress that you often get with traditional auctions.
And what about like contingencies? Can a buyers back out, let's say, if the home inspection reveals some major problems?
Yep, standard financing contingencies are allowed, so that means your offer is, contingent on the property meeting your lender's requirements.
So if like the inspection turns up a, I don't know, a leaky roof or some other big issue, you have the option to walk away and keep your deposit.
Exactly. It protects buyers from getting stuck with, a property that has hidden problems.
Okay, so all of that sounds pretty great, but let's say I'm a buyer. I'm looking at this property. Why should I choose this auction over just a traditional sale? What's the advantage for me?
Well, for one, it levels the playing field against those cash buyers. In a traditional sale, if you're competing with someone who can make an all-cash offer, it's tough to compete.
Right, cash is king, as they say.
But this format, it kind of takes that power away. You're competing based on the strength of your offer and your ability to secure financing, not just how much cash you have sitting around.
So it's a fairer fight, essentially. You're not automatically at a disadvantage.
Exactly. And as we mentioned, the transparency and buyer protections built into the process, that creates a much more predictable experience. You're not bidding blindly. You're making an informed decision.
Okay, so we've got this amazing property, a unique auction process. What about the timeline? When does this all go down?
The online bidding opens on February 24th. But before you jump into that, definitely make sure to attend one of the property tours.
All right, got to see it in person.
They've got two scheduled, February 27th and March 6th, both at 3:00 p.m. You'll want to register on doublyauctions.com because space is limited.
So get on that, folks. See the property, get a feel for it before you start bidding.
Exactly. And then final bids, those are due by March 13th at 3:00 p.m. So you've got some time to, do your due diligence, get your financing in order, and really think it through.
But, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the historical aspect of this whole thing. I mean, this is a piece of Patrick Henry's pine/farm that's incredible.
Yeah, and it's not just about the name recognition. Patrick Henry was a pivotal figure in American history. He was a staunch advocate for individual liberty, for revolution. To own a piece of land that was part of his estate, that's owning a piece of history.
It's almost like, owning a piece of the American Revolution, and then you've got those preserved Civil War entrenchments on top of that. It's like having a living museum in your backyard.
It's incredible to think about all the events that unfolded on that very ground, the stories that land could tell. It's something special. So welcome back, picking up where we left off.
Yeah, that property, it's really something else.
That blend of historical significance, the modern amenities, and then the whole financing-friendly option, it's pretty groundbreaking.
Yeah, in part one, we talked about how it really levels the playing field for buyers.
Exactly, especially in today's market. It's tough out there. You hear all these stories, people getting priced out, crazy bidding wars, all cash offers.
Yeah, it can feel impossible to compete sometimes.
Right, and this model, it addresses that. It allows for traditional financing, make sure the property meets lending requirements. It really opens doors for buyers who aren't, able to just drop a ton of cash.
Yeah, it takes the focus off of just the financial aspect, lets people focus on finding the right home.
Exactly. Encourages more strategic bidding, too. You can focus on the property's actual value, not just getting caught up in the frenzy.
Now, here's what I'm wondering. What if this catches on? Could we see a ripple effect, more sellers adopting this approach?
It's definitely possible if buyers show a strong preference for this format. I mean, it makes sense that sellers would, want to adapt.
Imagine a world where more auctions prioritize fairness, transparency, really look out for the buyer.
It would be a huge shift. Could even lead to more market stability. If buyers aren't feeling pressured to overextend themselves just to win a bid, you wouldn't see those crazy price swings as much.
And it's interesting, right? We are talking about Patrick Henry, champion of individual liberty, and now we're talking about this auction model that really empowers more people to, participate in the market.
It's like taking a page out of history and applying it to a modern challenge.
So it's not just about this one property, it's about a bigger conversation about the future of real estate.
Yeah. What are the potential changes here? What stands out to you as the most significant?
For me, it's got to be the potential to create a fairer market. One where buyers aren't solely defined by their ability to pay cash up front. This could empower a whole new generation of homeowners.
It's a shift from just a pure financial transaction to a more human-centered approach,
Now, let's not forget the historical significance here. We've talked about Patrick Henry, but those Civil War entrenchments, that adds a whole other layer.
It's a tangible connection to a pivotal moment in American history. Owning this property, it's not just about the house. It's about becoming a steward of that history,
It's like having a piece of a museum right in your backyard adds a whole other dimension to the value, I think.
Absolutely. It's about the stories, the legacy that come with it.
It's about connecting with the past while building a future. In part three, we'll get into some of the practical considerations for actually participating in this type of auction.
Yeah, we'll cover things like due diligence, financing options, what to expect during closing, and also we'll delve into some of the potential risks and rewards associated with this approach.
Okay, so we're back. Final part of our deep dive. We've talked about the property, the auction process, its potential impact.
It's been a fascinating discussion, really unique property, a lot to unpack.
Yeah, but let's get practical here. For anyone actually thinking about bidding on this property, what are the key things to keep in mind?
Yeah, good point. Let's talk about that. Due diligence is always crucial, but especially in an auction situation.
Yeah, you don't want to rush into things. What steps specifically should buyers be taking?
First off, I'd say review all the documentation they provide really carefully. Inspection reports, title documents, any disclosures. Don't just skim it. Take your time,
They did provide a whole package, right? Home inspection, septic, termite.
Yeah, it's all there, which is great, but still, ask questions if you need to, consult your own professionals. You really got to be comfortable with the property's condition.
And of course, make sure your financing is solid. This audit might be financing friendly, but you still need to be pre-approved.
Oh, absolutely. Pre-approval from your lender, that's essential before you even think about bidding.
Makes sense. Shows the sellers you're serious and ready to go.
Right, and it gives you, a clear idea of what you can actually afford. Helps make the whole closing process smoother if you win.
Now, let's talk about risks for a minute. I mean, even with all these buyer protections, auctions do come some uncertainty.
Yeah, of course, nothing's ever completely risk-free, right?
What are, like, the things that could potentially go wrong? What should people be watching out for?
Well, even with that clear title guarantee, there's always a chance something unexpected pops up. So having a contingency plan just in case, it's always a good idea.
So, like, maybe having a backup property in mind if things fall through.
Yeah, that's one approach. And remember, winning the auction, that means you're legally obligated to buy the property. So make sure you're fully committed before you place that final bid.
It's a big decision. But on the flip side, let's talk about the potential rewards. We've mentioned the historical significance, but could this also be a chance to get a better price than a traditional sale?
It's possible. Auctions can sometimes offer that opportunity to get the property at a lower price.
Who doesn't love a bargain, right?
But be strategic about it. Set a budget, stick to it, and try not to get swept up in the excitement of the auction. Emotions can lead to overbidding.
Easy to get caught up in the moment.
Exactly. Okay, so let's say you win. What happens next? What's the closing process like?
Yeah, walk us through that.
It's pretty much the same as a traditional sale. You finalize the financing, sign all the paperwork, and then, well, the property's yours.
Simple enough, right?
Yeah, pretty straightforward. But it's important to, work closely with your lender and your attorney, make sure everything's done correctly, on time. They can guide you through the whole thing.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier. This whole this auction model, its potential impact. Do you really think it could become the norm?
It's hard to say for sure. Real estate's always changing. But if this proves successful, if buyers and sellers like it, yeah, it could definitely lead to some big changes. The potential is there.
It would be pretty amazing to see the market shift towards more transparency, more access for everyone.
Yeah, it could really empower buyers, level the playing field. It could be a win-win for everyone involved. It's definitely something to watch.
So anyone listening, if you're looking for, something truly unique, a property with history, a transparent buying process, and a chance to own a piece of American history, 9275 Salem Creek Place might be it.
It's not just about the house itself. It's about joining something bigger. Do your research, explore the information, and make the decision that's right for you.
Yeah, head over to DudleyOptions.com, check it out. And if it feels right, register for one of the property tours. You never know, you might end up living on the same land as Patrick Henry.
And who knows, you might even be part of a real estate revolution.
So that's it for our deep dive. Hope you found it insightful, maybe even inspiring. Until next time, happy house hunting, everyone.